General Bhatia, if you were to look at it from a military perspective, do you think the Chinese military at this moment has the capacity to take on Washington, or are they just saying what they are in the hope that they'll be able to scare and stare Nancy Pelosi down?
I hope it doesn't come to that. It doesn't come to, it's brinkmanship which is going on, obviously. And the timing is very sensitive. We have the midterm election in the US coming in November. We have the October 20th Congress coming in. On Tuesday and Wednesday, Xi Jinping just called the party leaders and told them how good the party is doing, how good China is doing. And obviously, he's pitching for a third election. So I think China will go ahead, and when it says that there will be consequences, I think it means business, that there will be consequences, both the economic consequences, possibly military consequences, because China cannot back down. It is
so
one
let's
China
wargame this for a moment. Let's build on what NR Tenjan said. The PLA doesn't intend to shoot Pelosi's plane down, but they intend to cross the air identification zones in Taiwan and escort the plane in, which I presume would lead to a scrambling of the Taiwanese Air Force, and they'll have the F-16s up in the sky. Would this end peacefully, or if they cross over into Taiwan, then the Taiwanese Air Force is likely to shoot the Chinese planes down?
I don't think it will come to that because there has to be maturity at both places. There's too much at stake. But the point is, there can be a spiral. We cannot rule out spiral. And when two mighty nations they are at each other, a spiral can take place, and it can also take place by accident. So I hope it doesn't come to that. But China, I think, should also respect the sensitivity to other nations. China is sensitive to the three T's, Taiwan, Tibet, and East Turkestan. But the same thing, it should also respect the sensitivity to other nations like India along the LAC. It cannot have two rules, one for China and one for the rest of the world. So China also has to look inwards. And the US, in any case, as Bharat was trying to say, there's strategic ambiguity there. They want to go with Taiwan, but they have already declared that they respect the one China policy. So I think it is more brinkmanship which is going on, and we'll see more of it in the coming days.
You're considering this to be brinksmanship, not something that could spiral into war of military conflict. Bharat Karnad, your sense, you're seeing very strong verbal pushback from Beijing. Would that lead to potential military conflict in your view?
Look, the problem is this. The status of Taiwan in US policy is ambiguous. The act that was mentioned earlier that endorsed the Chinese view of a one China principle and so on, really has great many, shall we say, ways to interpret it. And insofar as China has made it clear and keeps making noises and takes actions like transgression of the Taiwanese airspace and so on, with an armada of aircraft as they did the other day, you have a real problem in terms of the Taiwanese trying to maintain their sovereignty. Now, the US, in a sense, is committed to, in some ways, helping Taiwan keep its independent status. That's why it's able, even within that act, to supply weapons. When people say offensive and defensive weapons, I think that's a spurious distinction. Because as an Indian defense minister in the 50s, V.K. Krishnamenon said, he didn't know of a gun that fired in only one direction. Similarly, if you have, all kinds of weapons that can be turned offensively, that can be used offensively, even defensive weapons, so that difference is spurious. The problem is this, both China and especially China has gone really quite way out in trying to stake its position and committed itself to doing something serious. Should Nancy Pelosi and her congressional delegation go into Taipei. But then if they go ahead, and as Nancy Pelosi said, that the Biden administration fears that her flight will be ambushed and a plane shot down, then you have a real flashpoint there. Because the US can't then stand aside and say, oh, well, okay, that was not a good idea perhaps to begin with, but now that she's gone down, okay, we'll back down.
But remember, there are midterm elections in the US. There's a re-election that she is up for in October in Beijing. And therefore, whichever party backs down, there are genuine and immediate political consequences of that as well.